All right, thank you for coming to Laracon US 2019, our 7th and biggest Laracon, really the biggest Laracon ever. Right now there's basically one official product you can use to get your application into production, and that's Laravel Forge. And if you haven't used Forge, Forge is a tool that you sign up for, like a SaaS monthly build product. You connect your DigitalOcean, your AWS account, your Linode account, and it provisions servers on those services for you. And it installs PHP, it installs MySQL, it installs Redis. It does all of that server stuff for you and gives you kind of a control panel for managing that server. And Forge is a really amazing product for a lot of people. And matter of fact, we have new features coming for Forge this year that we have planned. For years, people have been asking, is there something else that would be better for larger projects that need a little more? Things like auto scaling. I don't want to have to think about what if my site receives this burst of traffic and I'm not ready for it and I'm down and it's really embarrassing. Something that's a little more managed, you know. With Forge, you still have to worry about operating system updates, your PHP going out of date, things like that. And I've thought about this for actually a really long time. I've been heads down trying to solve this problem. And what I've come up with is something that I'm calling Laravel Vapor. Laravel Vapor is definitely ready for scale. So this is me bumping up to 5,000 users using an application. Instead of talking more about it, why don't I just show it to you and we can take a look at it. It is a hosted platform that you can link your AWS account and gives you an entire serverless deployment platform for Laravel, finely tuned for Laravel. You haven't seen anything quite this fleshed out yet, which I think you'll really like. So deployments, databases, caches, queues, cloud storage, asset management, DNS, certificates, metrics. We're going to look at all this today as we dive into Vapor. Serverless is sort of this new hot tech that's been trending over the past few years, driven by cloud providers like Amazon with their Amazon Lambda offering, driven by Google with Google Cloud Functions, and Microsoft has their own offering. And the idea behind serverless is that you deploy to their platform and you never worry about your infrastructure. You never think about even the underlying operating system really, updating it. You never think about updating your PHP version. You never think about managing your certificates. And you never even think about how much scale does my application need to handle, because it all elastically scales on demand really quickly. You know, actually, one single plan gives you unlimited deployments, unlimited teams, unlimited users, unlimited projects. There's no extra paying for that. The cool thing about Vapor is each environment gets its own vanity URL, and I can access that URL and see my application. Typically, if you deploy to a serverless environment, you don't really have any kind of staging domain to interact with your application with. Vapor gives you these staging domains for free, basically. It's all with zero downtime, so it's just like Envoyer. When you're deploying, your users are not going to get any error pages, anything like that. And there is a vapor.yaml file here, which just has the name of the project, and then it has my different environments in it. It automatically extracted our assets, and because Vapor's fine-tuned for Laravel, it knows where to find your assets. It extracts them all out of that public directory. It puts them on S3. It configures CloudFront. All of that behind the scenes is happening that you don't have to think anything about. You just can take advantage of it. What about environment variables? How do we manage that? So I think what you'll find with Vapor is you actually manage environment variables a lot less than you used to using other things, because we know so much about your application. As we'll see, we can automatically inject database environment variables for you. You'll see later we can automatically inject cache environment variables for you. We automatically inject queue environment variables for you. So you'll find that you actually think about environment variables a lot less. This is something that is not offered in something like Forge. This is a little bit more of an advanced feature where you can get actually really nice metrics on any environment in Vapor. And so this is really nice where I can configure an alarm to say, like, hey, if I'm receiving more than 100 requests per minute, which is not a lot, for at least 5 minutes, then I want you to email me. Or it could send a Slack message, or it could send you a webhook. I can provision two types of databases in Vapor. So I can provision a fixed size database, which is a typical database where you pick how much performance do you want it to have out of the box. So if I go to create database, you can see right here, fixed size database. I can give it a name, and then I sort of pick, you know, what kind of specs does it need? How much RAM does it need ahead of time? But the environment variables are automatically injected into your application so that it can use that database. So that's a fixed size database. Now, you might have noticed I have a serverless database. So how this works is you create a serverless database. You don't have to pick how much RAM it has. You don't have to pick how much disk size you need. It will automatically scale based on the demand on the database. So you attach it to your application in the same way, and you just kind of forget about it. Amazon will automatically scale it for you. You can view information about it here in Vapor. What about database scaling? So I told you this was a fixed size database, and does that mean that I'm stuck with this size forever? No, actually you can scale this database directly from the Vapor UI. About backing up and restoring my database, again, I can do this directly from Vapor. I can restore to any point in time in the past 3 days. So you don't really have like hourly backups or nightly backups or whatever. It's just point in time down to the second, any time in the last 3 days. You can create a new database that replicates one of your other databases exactly. You can create Redis clusters directly from the Vapor UI with as many nodes as you want in the cluster. If you do not specify a cache to an application, we automatically create a DynamoDB table for that application that can serve as a cache, and hit this cache route and see that our cache driver has been automatically changed to Redis. The Redis C extension for PHP is already installed in the Vapor runtime. We don't have to worry about that, so we know we're going to get great performance. And then we'll be accessing this Redis cluster without flipping any other switches or injecting any other environment variables manually on our application. So it's really easy to attach these clusters to your projects. Now what's really cool is, say we want to scale up our Redis cache. Right now I've got 2 Redis nodes on this cache, and I can just go right into this context menu, bump up those nodes to like 3 or 4, and start scaling it, just that easy. So if you're like me, before something like this came along, it would be really intimidating for me to manage Elasticache clusters, to manage RDS subnet groups, to manage VPCs, to manage security groups and rules. And a lot of stuff is happening behind the scenes to make this as seamless as possible for Laravel developers to deploy serverless applications. What about queues? You'll notice in my configuration file, I didn't have any configuration items about queues. That's because you actually don't have to do anything. You don't have to add any configuration. You can just deploy and start dispatching jobs. Handling all these queued jobs pretty quickly, actually, considering they sleep for 1 second. This is all going to be dynamically scaling. If you've got hundreds of jobs coming in, no problem, no sweat. Everything's going to run really quickly. That's really all there's to say about queues, because you just deploy and start using them. There's not a lot of configuration. Vapor configures AWS. It sets up event source mappings from SQS into your serverless application so that when a queued job comes in, it invokes the application, processes the job using all the normal Laravel queue worker stuff, and everything works basically exactly how it would work on any other server, like a DigitalOcean server. There's actually a separate page for domains. And what's really cool is I can even purchase domains right here from Vapor, which will be on my AWS Route 53 account. If I purchase a domain right here from Vapor, we automatically create a wildcard certificate for it. We automatically create a DNS zone for you. All that's taken care of. They all automatically renew, of course, for free, and you're ready to go. A domain you already own, it doesn't even have to be on AWS. It could be through some other registrar like hover.com. Again, this is optional. You can manage all of your DNS right from Vapor, so you have everything in one spot. If you don't want to do that, you just manage your DNS wherever your domain is registered. So mail. We saw that Vapor added some DNS records for SES when we're on that DNS screen. And what that does is automatically set up the DKIM validation for the domain. It automatically validates that you own the domain. It handles all that DNS stuff for you when you deploy. So when you deploy, we also inject the environment variables to send email through Amazon's SES service. If you don't want to use that, you can just inject your own mail environment variables to use something like Postmark or Mailgun or whatever else. What's really recommended is to send your file straight to S3 directly from the client side. And this is really a good practice even if you have traditional server-based PHP applications. That way you're not bogging down your own web servers with files that people are uploading all the time. Where we can ask the Amazon SDK in PHP to give us a pre-signed URL that allows us to upload a file onto S3, and then we can just push that file up using that secure URL, which maybe expires after a given time. So there's kind of a few moving pieces to make this happen. We have to ask our backend to create that pre-signed URL. We have to get that URL back on our client side, and then we have to somehow make like a request to send the file to S3 using that, and then we can ping our backend and say, hey, we're done uploading the file. And because I didn't want you to really have to worry about pinging the backend to get the S3 URL, bringing it back, sending the file, blah, 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 I actually wrote a little JavaScript package that you can pull into your application that's out on NPM to let you do a really cool thing called vapor.store. And then I'm just going to call vapor.store and pass it the file. What that's going to do is ping our backend to a route provided by the Vapor service provider in our application, get that pre-signed S3 URL, get it back, send the file to S3. It's going to give us the current upload progress to S3 so we can show a progress bar or whatever. Once it's done uploading, it's going to give us the stored file object. And so there was another situation I wanted to try to prevent where, what if someone uploads the file to S3 on the client side and then they sort of abandon the rest of the action. They don't save their profile. Would the file just sit out there forever? No. So what we do with Vapor is we create a temp directory within your storage bucket for the environment. When you first call Vapor Store, we send the file to that temp directory, and any file that's in that temp directory for more than 24 hours, we automatically purge out for you. But you can also deploy from your CI pipeline if you want to do things that way. We can just call into our Composer vendor directory, PHP vendor bin vapor, deploy production. I'm just going to save this deployment pipeline. And this is actually really nice because then you just get that push to deploy functionality that you may be used to. You can just bake it right into your CI platform. What about testing your application locally? So we actually included a command in the Vapor CLI called Vapor Tests, and what this does is run your tests in a Docker container with the exact build of PHP that's running on Vapor. It also gives you MySQL and Redis available to you, and all you have to do is run Vapor Test. It spins up that container, runs PHP unit, and you're good to go. You've tested against the actual, literal, identical PHP build that's running on the production Vapor installation. Now, we've done a lot of stuff in the UI. We've created databases, we've created caches. If we look at this Vapor CLI tool, everything I did on stage today, you can do straight from the command line. That's kind of what I have today, Laravel 6.0, Laravel Vapor. Robust serverless deployment platform for Laravel. Really, nothing totally robust like this exists for any language and any ecosystem, so I'm really happy to get this out there for Laravel and kind of try to lead the pack into sort of an auto-scaling, serverless future for Laravel and PHP with automatic asset handling, database scaling, database restoration, cache scaling, domain, certificate management, CloudFront management, all done really easily for you with a nice UI. We'll probably be shipping this out in a few weeks for everyone to use. The pricing will be really simple. It's the same price as the business tier of Forge, one monthly price, unlimited projects, unlimited deployments, unlimited team members. I think you'll really like it. I didn't know what to think about this talk as I was preparing it because I felt like Vapor, when I'm using it, feels deceptively simple in terms of what's happening behind the scenes, where I spent 9 months poring over AWS docs and worrying about subnets and security groups and VPCs and routing tables. But I tried to do all that to give you a really nice, seamless experience so you can never think about scaling your servers again, hopefully, for a long time.